I had a client recently. He wanted to tell the court and the landlord that they didn't have jurisdiction over him because he is a person or an entity.
Sure.
And I was like, hey, you have like a really good argument. Let's not go down that route. If I wasn't there, whoever's on the other side and the court would have had to spend an hour reading his hundreds of pages he printed off. I do think licensed paralegals are that kind of nice buffer where like we can make everyone's lives easier and not have to deal with as much.
Hi, you're listening to Paralegal Real Talk. I'm your series guest host, Linda Odermatt. We call this contributing series Paralegal Real Talk because when we get together, I'm going to spill the tea about where and how things are changing in the legal profession while sharing my perspective about those changes. On today's episode, I have the distinct pleasure of interviewing Sean Ferraro. Sean is a licensed paralegal and operations manager for the Clear Clinic in Portland, Oregon. Sean is one of the first 3 Landlord Tenant licensed paralegals in the state of Oregon. In partnership with Victor Pierce, another licensed paralegal, they jointly run the Tenant Advocacy Program for the Clear Clinic, which is a legal aid clinic providing free legal assistance to tenants facing housing issues. Prior to working as a paralegal, they worked in the restaurant industry for 10 years. Welcome, Sean. We're so glad you're here. All right, so let's get started. And why don't you just give our listeners just a kind of an introduction to the Clear Clinic? What's the mission? What do you guys do there?
Yeah, we're a free legal clinic that has a couple of different programs in. We do a lot of criminal record expungement, some immigration law, some landlord-tenant law, as well as name and gender marker changes. We do pro se models, so all of our stuff is mainly just preparing and filing stuff for people so that we can help as many people as possible.
Awesome. And that's pro bono clinic, so your clients are not paying for this fee, but maybe you guys run on grants? Is that what you guys do?
Yes, we're primarily grants, and then we have contracts with Innovation Law Lab, who does free representation for all in Oregon, and they pay us per client. So it's basically just instead of the client paying, someone else pays. And
Okay.
predominantly grants.
Yeah. And so your career path, though, did you start as a paralegal and then you became a licensed paralegal? How did that happen?
I started as I was working in restaurants for 10 years, and then COVID hit, and I made a career path change, and then started working at the Clear Clinic. The licensed paralegal program opened up, and I just went down and did that.
Nice. And was it a long journey? Like, how long did it take you?
I was aware of it for a long time because they had announced it, but I think from when it was like a month of when I had been thinking about it to when they said like submissions are now due 1 month from today, and that's when I actually was like, I gotta start this process. So
Yeah, let's go.
it was a quick process for me.
Absolutely. Was it hard? Like, were you set up for the challenge of doing the application and the whole application, or, licensing process?
Yeah, I think it was definitely difficult. I think the biggest thing was just like being in the first cohort where there's no one that you can ask like, hey, like what did you do for this? You're just kind of like, I hope what I do is the correct way of doing this. It wasn't difficult as in like this is this really like hard thing. It was more of just this like big unknown thing that I was like, I think the hard part of it is like, am I even doing the right thing here, or am I going to submit something and just they're like, oh, this is not what we were looking for. So it's kind of like my mentality was, I'm like, I'm just going to get something in, and whatever comes back from that, I'll deal with that at that point.
Yeah. So how have you seen impact to the clients that you're serving from being a paralegal, like supporting the attorneys in that space, and now being a licensed paralegal? How does that translate for how you serve your clients?
I think it allows us to offer more services or like more representation to people because, for example, like in our criminal or our eviction team who does eviction defense, we were always pretty good at putting a lot of autonomy onto the paralegals. So like a lot of times you would have your cases with a supervising attorney, and then you're like, here's the case strategy. Then you would sit down with the attorney once a week, run it all by them, get their sign off, and then go. But then that kind of created this bottleneck where anytime you needed to change something, you had to go to the attorney who also has a caseload.
Mhm.
And so then especially with like the hybrid work now, where it's not just like popping into someone's office and being like, hey, this happened. Can we switch and decide to go this route? You have to send an email, and then it's a couple days to hear back. So I think now allowing licensed paralegals to just make those decisions and not have to get it signed off by an attorney has led to us being able to do more. And it allows attorneys not to spend so much time like just signing off on stuff all day.
Yeah. And have you gotten any direct feedback from your clients about your services? Like, what are you hearing from them?
Honestly, I haven't gotten much feedback. Like, I think our clients are just in such crisis mode that they don't even know half the time.
What you've done for them?
Like
Yeah.
I remember because we do have access to rent assistance. And so, like, I would say maybe like 50% of our clients just think that we're a rent assistance. When they find out like we're attorney, they're like, you guys were my attorneys? And we're like, yes, you signed a representation agreement. We appeared in court for you. Like,
We did all of these things.
yeah, they're like, I thought you guys were just my rent providers. It's like, yeah.
No.
So yeah, I don't think I've heard too much other than just being like thankful for the assistance. Like, oh, you're this new thing. It's just like,
Hmm.
thanks for the help.
Well, because they're not in crisis anymore. But you're right. If you're just in crisis, you're just trying to get out of that next thing, right?
Yeah.
You have tunnel vision about the thing. And so if they haven't said it enough, thank you for the work that you're doing. That's amazing. All right. What was the other thing I was going to talk to you about is how does the Clear Clinic overall like track its impact to the community? Like, do you guys have surveys that you do? Is there numbers that you report on? How do you track your impact?
Yeah, that's such a good question. We are notoriously awful at collecting data. You work
As you're in the weeds and you're doing the
Yes.
work, right?
And it's the people so like our admin team at the clinic is me and Lainey, which for everyone is our executive director. It's just numbers. We go, here's how many clients we served. I was supposed to send it out to our listserv yesterday and just got swamped. But we do have our first annual report coming out.
Hey, look at you guys.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's a mix of how many clients we served and then getting just stories of like certain things that we were able to accomplish.
Mhm.
But yeah, and then like most of it is just what our funders want. I think that's most of what we collect. We aren't super good at, and like we recognize that we should eventually start collecting like more information, but at this point it's like whatever like the bare minimum for our funders to pay us is what we're
Yeah.
working with. Yeah.
Okay. Because, pro bono and legal aid clinics are smaller and kind of have to be kind of pioneers in a sense because you guys just have to get it done. What is Clear Clinic doing with its licensed paralegals? Like, how many do you have? Are you trying to get more? What's the goal?
Yeah, there's two of us, me and my colleague Victor, are two licensed paralegals. Victor he works on our eviction defense team. And so he just has a full caseload. It was basically just to allow him to have his own thing. I have been running our tenant advocacy program, which is just a kind of like, the Community Alliance of Tenants. They have their hotline. It's similar to that, but basically it's just like people will call us or they fill out an intake form with just a legal question. It's a simple, my landlord did this.
Mm.
What's going on? And then we can then reach back out to them and say, here is what it is. Like, is this legal? Is this not legal? Just giving very brief legal advice. And so I think that is something that we would not have been able to do previously because it just wouldn't make sense to have like me then run that past an attorney and like,
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. And then we are working on getting two of our other paralegals licensed.
Yes. So kind of doubling the efforts.
Yes.
And do you guys have like pathways? Like, when you hire a paralegal, do you ask them if they want to become a licensed paralegal now, or is that just naturally evolving?
We haven't hired many people since we moved over from PCC.
Portland Community College.
Yes, Portland Community College. We used to be a part of them, like a little subsect, and then we branched off as our own nonprofit back in March of last year. we haven't hired any paralegals since.
Hmm.
We have like 26 people on staff, so we're kind of like at our we're at a point of where we'd like to be.
Sure.
But we do talk about it with all of the housing paralegals, and out of the 3 of them, 2 of them are trying and 1 of them already is. Yeah, so I don't know if it would be necessarily something that we bring up in an interview, but definitely like once someone is hired, we would encourage them to do that. We also encourage a lot of our immigration paralegals to become BA accredited reps, which is like the Board of Immigration Appeals,
Mhm.
which is a similar pathway for immigration paralegals to practice without a license.
Right. All these areas are super hot topics right now. I think they're probably on fire. Um, okay, one of the other things that I was just gonna just kind of talk about is like, if somebody was thinking about becoming a, from your perspective,
Mhm.
if they were thinking about becoming a paralegal or becoming a paralegal because they want to become a licensed paralegal, what is your advice? What would you tell them?
So tough.
We don't bring the easy questions here.
I know. I would say probably like just first, like if you have any questions, let me know. And then just God, what would I say? I think I would just say what I said of just like, do your best. And like, I think the most important thing is just getting something prepared. Because a lot of people and me, like I spend so much time like, should I put this in like to my portfolio? Should I not? And then at the end of the day, you're like, well, it doesn't matter what you put in if you're not putting anything in it. So I think it's just, yeah, going for it, submitting it, and then hoping for the best.
Okay, I have one other question because a lot of my students in my class always ask this question. How am I supposed to get experience if I don't have experience?
I feel like this is a question I had as well because like I was coming out of 10 years in restaurant industry and like I remember my first paralegal job. I still do this reviewing contracts and like a week in the guy that I was doing it for was like, "Hey, you know that ITS is I was doing IT apostrophe S as like a possessive or
Yeah.
so I was like very out. I was like very had no experience and had been out of any sort of like professional field for a very long time. I just kind of leapt into it. I just started volunteering at the Clear Clinic, happened to know the director through like I was her mom's neighbor for like a couple of years. I would say, yeah, just trying to start with like volunteering or just anything that you can to get experience. And then go from there. But yeah, it is really tough. Like I don't think there's a great answer. I think it's hard to get that experience. And I also know it's hard to find those opportunities to like volunteer places because I think everyone is in this field is in such crisis mode that like it can be hard to,
Find a spot.
yeah, and be like, oh, I'm going to train someone to do something like that.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good reminder to not only our listeners, but also just to those who are in those positions who are looking for people to come in and become licensed paralegals or fill these spots that are, super hard to fill. It's like until we create opportunity to learn and to volunteer or to get that experience, it's going to be harder and harder to fill that need.
Yeah.
So just making that more visible and having more awareness in that spot. Okay. So we've talked a lot about the things that I want to know. Is there anything that you want to share about either the Clear Clinic or licensed paralegals? Thinking about it's not only Oregon that is listening to the other people across the country that are thinking about licensed paralegal programs or finding other ways that they can help in access to justice spaces. So what do you want to share? What do you want to talk
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like my plug is always just like I feel like I'm always when I'm doing this plug, it's predominantly with attorneys that I'm talking to. So I don't know if that's the primary people listening, but I'll still give it as just like I think people view a lot of times like, oh, these people are coming in to like take our job. Like,
about?
oh, like these people are gonna then go get all of the clients I'm representing and like
Competition.
the clients I work with are not the people that are going to pay an attorney. Like it's either that they talk to me or they talk to no one is kind of like what I always say.
Yeah.
And then like, do you want to like I think I make it easier for the attorneys on opposing counsel. Like,
Hmm.
I had a client recently that like I was trying to settle a eviction, and he wanted to tell the court and the landlord that they didn't have jurisdiction over him because he is a person or an entity. Not, it's like a sovereign citizen thing.
Sure.
And I was like, hey, you have like a really good argument. Let's not go down that route. But like, if I wasn't there, like that, whoever's on the other side and the court would have probably had to spend like an hour reading, who knows, like his hundreds of pages he printed off the internet, filing like all sorts of crazy stuff. So it's like, I do think licensed paralegals are that kind of nice buffer where like we can make everyone's lives easier and not have to deal with like as much
Okay.
busy work.
I was going to ask this earlier and I got sidetracked, but I want to ask it now. How are you treated by attorneys on the other side? Because I've heard that
Yeah.
they're not always professional with licensed paralegal.
I have been fine. I think like because I do such a like limited like eviction work in Portland.
Yeah.
Like most of the attorneys like I was working with before I became licensed. So like I think a lot of them have known me as like popping up in their inboxes being like, hey, we're representing this person, send us this info. So I've been very lucky with it and not had a lot of issues. I did have I showed up in court in Lincoln City a couple weeks ago, like for a remote appearance, and I did have a very like I showed up probably like 5 or 5 minutes early to the hearing, and I had to like talk to the judge about whether I was allowed to be there, and it seemed like she just had no clue. She's like, well, are you allowed to like what are you allowed to do? And I'm like, I think like here's what it is, like
Okay.
yeah. So like it's yeah. I think I have not received any negative
Hmm.
anything,
Good.
which has been nice.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna leave it here. Is there anything else you want to say, or is there any other way that paralegals, whoever's listening, can get involved in access to justice, specifically landlord tenant stuff that you're working on?
Don't know. I'm so sorry. I'm like,
No, that's okay. That's a
yeah.
good answer too. It's just like, how about just start, right? Just start, lean into it, find a way to, find a legal aid clinic in your area, or,
Yes.
find out if there's a licensed paralegal program in your state, and go from there.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, find a legal aid clinic in your area. See if they have any opportunities. If you have like a bar association where you live, like go to their website, look at their newsletter, and see if they have like pro bono opportunities. I know at least in Portland we have the Multnomah Bar Association, and they list their pro bono opportunities that are, and they will say whether it's for attorneys or non-attorneys. So like when we decide like we're gonna have a bunch of people come and help us with our backlog of eviction expungements, we'll post in there. And so I would assume other places do that as well.
Sure. Well, thanks so much for your time, Sean. I really appreciate it. It looks beautiful outside, so I'm gonna appreciate it. Take care.
Yeah, have a good one.
You too.
All right, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, hit the subscribe button in whatever platform you're listening. And please take a quick minute and leave a review of the podcast, and share this episode with just one colleague or friend who you think would benefit from what we discussed today. Share the knowledge, and the entire paralegal profession elevates. See you next week. Bye for now.